Hi everybody, and warmly welcome to another episode of the Alpine A110 channel. I've had this car now for it's about 6 months, and I've been driving it virtually every day to work, to see friends, and to pick up some groceries and stuff like that. Basically taken every opportunity to drive it for a while. And apart from that, I also did a track day on it, and I've been traveling quite far. So about 600 kilometers in one day a couple of times. And all in all, I've done about 5,000 kilometers so far. And the general impression of the car is very positive, of course, but there are also some negative things. And this might be a good time now to sort of wrap up the first 6 months of ownership. Which are the pros, which are the cons? And if you're thinking about buying a Alpine A110, maybe help you out a bit in deciding whether this car is for you. Whenever you do a, let's say a 6-month ownership review like this one, there are some good and some bad things. But let's start with a shorter list, and that is the bad things. I think what I don't like about this car is the way at least the Swedish organization, the sales organization, has worked so far. They are all very nice and likable people, but when it comes to sort of returning calls and getting the order right and other things that you can really expect when you buy a 70,000 euro car, they are not quite there yet. The factory might also have some issues when it comes to well, getting the order right. Like I said, for instance, my car came without parking sensors, which is a bit of a negative thing in a car like this. They will fix it, but I've been waiting for that fix to happen now for 4 months. Another bad thing is, of course, that the car is maybe not so cheap for the performance that you get, but that's only sort of half the truth, because the car is unique when it comes to how it's built up with its aluminium structure, the low weight, etc. And the way it drives is also totally unique. So actually, I don't think it costs a lot for what you get. I think it's pretty cheap for the experience you get with the Alpine A110. When it comes to the car itself, it's mostly everything hunky-dory, but there are a couple of things that you might... This is a really nice area. I think there is some leather here stitched, and this is fine with the... But then you get here and you get scratchy plastics. It's also a bit scratchy here. Not a big deal whatsoever, but I assume that might not be to the full liking of some people. The infotainment system leaves a bit to be desired. It's not so intuitive, and I also have clear problems to get my phone to work with this Renault-specific MySpin interface. If you have a bit of weight around your hips, these sport seats or bucket seats will be too narrow for you. You need to try the seats first. There are also another seating option which is called comfort seats, so that might be the seats to go for. When it comes to dynamics regarding how the car drives, there are very few things to complain about. There are a few things that might be different to what you're used to. The car is maybe not as stable as some of the German cars at high speed. It wanders around a bit more. You can also feel that sometimes if you have too much inflation in your tires, it gets from the factory, it often comes with 2.5 kilos, and that's clearly too much, because then the chassis starts to vibrate over bumps, a bit like a cabriolet. It's not so the torsion stiffness is not the highest in this car, but if you take the tire pressures down to about 2 kilos, that is all solved, and it goes like magic again. But when I spent some time at tracks, I've had some other Alpines who have been doing some stints in a row. They have experienced overheating problems with the engine. So the engine enters limp mode, and you just park the car for a couple of minutes, and then it's fine again. But it seems like the temperature management and the cooling is not perfect in this car. When it comes to boot space, it's clearly not the most practical car, but it's pretty good anyway. Whenever you do pick up groceries and stuff, you can put 2 bags on this side and 2 bags on that side, and then you also have a luggage compartment in the front, which you can use sometimes. So I think it's for the type of car, it's totally okay. Okay, these might have been the negatives or half negatives, but let's move on to the longer list, which is the positives. Well, first of the positives is of course the way this car drives. On the winding road like this, I don't think anything beats it for feeling. It's so light-footed, it's so much fun and so agile, and it's fast. It's really fast. These flowing roads, a lot of grip. Oh. It's also more than fast enough for me. Faster than this will not necessarily be more fun. I think they found a good level of performance here. The steering is fine, it's precise, it's got some feel in it, maybe not as much feel as some old hydraulic, but that's really nothing that you think about. It's a really good steering in this car. The gearbox here is quick-witted, it's fast shifting, and the automatic mode works fine too. I selected the sports brakes, and they are really good. I used them for an entire day on the when I took the car to the track, and I didn't detect one least tendency to fade. They were super strong all the time, totally consistent. The sound of the engine in the A110 is, you know, it is only a 4-cylinder engine with turbocharger in it, so you can't expect it to be a singer in any way. It will never sound as cool as a 5, 6, 8 or 10-cylinder engine for that matter. But it still sounds pretty cool to me. It's you get a nice rorty sound in the cabin. And whenever you want to travel or take it easy, it just gets a bit hushed and stays in the background. I think they have done a good job of getting the engine sound as good as it can get, provided that there is only a 4-cylinder engine in it. This is not a garage queen. This is a car meant for everyday use, and it's also very suitable for everyday use. It's comfortable suspension wise, and when it comes to noise. So if you want an everyday car, this is fine. Another thing that's really good is a stereo in this car. It's got the Focal Premium with the subwoofer under my seat here, and the sound is fantastic. I think it's really good. I enjoy music a lot in this car. So and also because the cabin is so comparatively silent, when you're traveling with the car you can really enjoy music in it. So if you like music, I suggest speccing the highest end stereo. I like it a lot. Consumption is surprisingly low. Sometimes when I've been driving carefully and also maybe inflated the tires a little bit more, which I mentioned earlier, there are some bad things to highly inflated tires, but then it gets more frugal with higher tire inflation. You can sometimes even reach around 6 and under. But I usually, on a tank of fuel, mixed cycle, I usually end up around 7, 8, 9 liters. If you drive it on a track, it's fantastic fun. I would say hilarious. It's magic the way it oversteers all the time, but it's always controllable. And it's such a playful thing, such a delightful experience to take this car to the track. You can, because of the low weight, you can take it there with the normal Michelin Pilot Sport tires. You will not get as much grip as some other people who have our compound tires, of course, but you will have a lot of fun with these. And the low weight will also mean that you will not kill these tires so easily. They will do many track days until they are at the end of their life. If you're aiming to take your A110 to the track a lot, maybe you should go for the A110S model. Not because of the increased performance. I think that difference is minimal between the normal and that car, but it has stiffer springs. And one thing that you can feel in a track environment, whereas this is great fun and oversteering all the time, if you really want to set lap times and be fast, you need stiffer suspension in a track situation. This car seems to be primarily set up for fast road driving, and there it's just perfect with with this setup. On the track it works fine, but it will never be as fast as an A110S, which has stiffer springs. Still, would I trade the springs in this car against the stiffer aftermarket springs to sort of to gain a couple of seconds on the track? Never in the world. I love how this car drives on the road, and whereas I love to go to the track from time to time, it happens very seldom, and I want to enjoy the car fully on the road. That's where I like it the most. So therefore this setup that the car has now it's perfect for me. One thing that is pretty clear in our market, which is Sweden, of course, is that this is still a very rare sight. Whenever I park somewhere, a lot of people usually come by and ask, what is this? Is this a Porsche? No, it says here Alpine on the back. What kind of car is this? It looks cool. Is it French or is it German or Japanese? So they don't know anything about the car. Some people remember the brand from the 80s and 90s, maybe also the 60s, of course, but those are few. So, whenever I drive around here in Stockholm, at least, I know there are a couple of Alpines that have been sold here, but you rarely see any of them. I've seen like one or two other cars in traffic throughout the summer, so it's still a very rare sight. So if you want to have something that feels a bit unique and different, this is not a bad choice. So if you're thinking about buying an A110, should you? Well, based on my experience, if you can live with a car with only 2 seats and the limited practicality of this body shape that it has, then by all means do it. It's a fantastic car. It's a fantastic drive. For me, it's sort of a happy pill. Whenever I go into this car after a bad day at work, I get happy again. And isn't that the entire purpose of owning a car like this one?